Good afternoon. My name is Elfrieda Bissember, and I'm speaking to you from Georgetown, Guyana. I'm happy to be welcoming you to the fifth edition of the Catapult LVS uh, Lockdown Virtual Salons. And before we go any further, let me just say a very big thank you to the Catapult team, to Kingston Creative, to Fresh Milk, and to the Fresh Milk platform for organizing and enabling this series of conversations, which we're so fortunate to be having amongst our creative arts community in the Caribbean. Before we go any further, let me just remind you that during the program, you're invited to post comments and questions, which we will respond to as that hour goes by. So before we go any further, I think it's time for me to say that my co-discussant, my colleague today, is a Barbadian sculptor whose name is Kenneth Blackman. He's a self-taught sculptor with a lot of very wonderful work that I've been able to see. And I'm going to be discussing with him not only his ideas and his concerns, his convictions, but of course the work which will express some of these issues. And we're going to do a lot of discussing of this. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Kenneth to say hello to you and to introduce himself, to say a few words.
Okay. Hi, my name is
Kenneth. Welcome.
Hi.
Nice to see you. May I just give you a little prompt, because I want to say, really, you're a self-taught artist and I've seen your wonderful work. When did you first consider yourself as someone who could work as an artist, so who could possibly make a living, or was it that you felt you simply couldn't avoid doing something that you loved? Could you just say something about that? After all, you're using your hands, you're using your ideas, your imagination. So when did you come to it gradually, or did you suddenly get a burst of light that this is what I have to do?
This all began when I like after finishing school. After finishing school, I like set out, like had a fun up my like checking for my real reason for being here. I like a search for myself to like found like what's my real reason for being here. There got to be something more than just like getting up and going to work every day, uh, waiting for a pay from say like a company or somebody going to work with a company. Um, I I used to do like carpentry. I'm a carpenter. I do masonry. I painted like around like houses and things around like the hotels and stuff like that. But somehow it didn't fulfill into me. There was something more, like there's something deeper, something more that I wanted than just painting houses and carpentry. I love carpentry and things too, but there was something else that was deep inside of me. There was like it was a search for my as an African for being here. So that's how it started like that. I just like got it from there.
So you mean something obviously that was more meaningful to you. So
Right.
and so did you kind of decide, well, look, I'm going to just maybe do a little more work just to keep the bills paid, but I'm going to focus on that area
Yeah.
where
At
you
first,
have your nice little place, your workshop, your environment, and I'm going to just be inspired and work with what is there and start to create my art. Is that right? Or am I putting words in your mouth?
not exactly to a certain extent. Right? Yeah, no, this is what happened. Like he's saying, it all happened through a search for myself as an African
Yeah.
living in the West Indies,
Mm-hmm.
right? To
Mm-hmm.
be able to work for myself directly, to be doing things that I love. I mean, I really love something with more challenge than just the carpentry and that kind of stuff. The three-dimensional work otherwise. And painting, I could do a little drawing. I could do a little drawing, but somehow I needed to be, like I said, I needed to be doing something that everybody wasn't into. And wood, I had a feeling for wood, like to be able to deal with wood on
Right.
a higher level, or on a high level, a level that like watching. They had like going to around a few craft shows, art shows and things, and seeing that like, well, yeah, they were not painters, but there weren't too many people dealing with wood, or let's say like carving or sculpting. So that's where I channel my energy
Right.
toward
Interesting. So
carving.
this would have been, sorry, this would have been about like 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Would you
This
say?
was like close to, like 35 years ago.
Yes, yes, yes. So
About
that's
30,
interesting. Yeah.
35
Sorry, go
plus.
ahead. Yeah. Because I know that I'm a little familiar with Barbados and some of the art there because I know as an island it's so picturesque and it's had so many visitors and so many citizens who have gone into this idea of painting and so on, either as amateurs who love it and who might be very good or as professionals. So there is that sense of a lot of beautiful work being painted, but there always seems to have been um, less of a body of sculptors, though I think that's a little different. Well, maybe it's more so now in my country where we have a lot of wood, a bit like you, but we have more of it, where we have people who are going into sculpture less than painting. But I think it was, as you say, in Barbados where you would have been in the minority.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure,
you
for
would have
sure.
been in the minority. Yes. Well, if I can just make a comment before we go further, the thing that, and I mentioned this to you before, I think when I wrote to you, what struck me about your statement, and I think many people would have read on the LVS website, perhaps your statement. I was so struck by how your clarity of expression, your eloquence, your conviction, the force of what you were saying about yourself, about identity, about Black identity, about who are we as people, because we need to have that. We need to grapple with that and grasp it to have meaning in a sense, you know. So, and then what I also found very admirable is in looking at your work, to see what I consider a lot of wonderful technical skill, which is linked with, again, a wonderful sense of observation and feeling for whatever it is you're sculpting. And to me, though it's very unfashionable sometimes to talk about technical skill and technique, for me, there is nothing better as a basis for art that is going to have impact and is going to last than technical ability, technical skill, which is allied to a wonderful sense of expression. And I see that in your work. So, and I'm hoping that we go on to see some of the pieces, I'll be able to point some of that out because you do have this sense of observation and I see it as something which expresses your appreciation, of your country, of your surroundings, and it's very evident. It seems to me in your work. So you worked for several years on your own, and then you started to. Did you start at the enter competitions? Did you start to show your work, or did you begin by creating those pieces where you were able to just sell them in a sort of
No,
fairly casual
it's
way?
when it started this way, like I was like working, I was doing carpentry, I was painting, but on the side, my extra time, I was just like doing like small sculptures,
Mhm.
like sparrows and like small birds and turtles, lizards, small jewelry boxes, and that kind of stuff. I used to
Right.
deal like with those things and just like put them on side, put them on side, and so at least I was still at my mother at the time, and they were taking it like instead of taking like a whole corner of the house. I had a whole set of them just like carved and put there before people even knowing that it was actually like carving at the time. And like I tell you, I was a carpenter. I was doing carpentry at the time, and I had a competition. I think it was the NIFCA. It was the NIFCA. The time
Right.
I went there. So anyhow, there was a art competition on, and I entered two pieces as a carpenter. I didn't even put artists on the thing. When I send them in
With
as a
carpenter.
as
Ah.
yeah. I had a
Mhm.
piece, yeah, a small piece called Innocence, and a piece called Out in the Middle. Out of the pieces that I had like stashed that I would put in, which was a relief piece and a three-dimensional piece.
Right.
The piece Innocence was like a little girl sucking a finger, kneeling down and sucking a finger, and the apple with the pins in the side, which won the Art Stars Award. Out in the Middle won an honorable mention award.
Wonderful.
It's the first exhibition I entered. All two pieces had awards. So
Wonderful. Yeah.
the encouragement came from there, and then meeting with other artists and other collectors and whatever else.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Those two pieces encouraged me then to add more to what I had already had carved and put had in the corner of the house. I think.
Yes, yeah.
So
Well, that,
I started
sorry,
from there.
that's wonderful. That must have been very, giving you a lot of satisfaction and even sort of validation, to say, well, look, I've just
Yeah,
tried, and then people
that was it
are singling you out in such a forum where you had never interacted in any way.
for the first time. Yeah.
That's absolutely, well, that's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, because I wanted to just say a little bit more because about your work, because I think when I look at it, when I look at the skill and the detail, I think it's very empathetic, because you feel for people, you feel for the objects even that you see. I think the animals, the plants, I think it's all there, and yet you were self-taught. So it's really remarkable. The point about sculpture generally, and I think when we go look at your figurative work or your descriptive work, particularly of the human figure or the human face. The thing about sculpture generally is that it always has, to me, as a context. Well, art generally has a context. You have to understand it in a context. And at least initially, I can say that you had the concerns too of when you were talking about where you grew up or where you live in. Is it Durand Village?
Yeah, George.
Durand Village, where you're so aware of all the environment, the animals, the plants. You can hone in on a wonderful detail, or you can pick up a piece of wood and you know how to use it. You know how to capture the movement in a little creature like a lizard. And I said to myself, I think you actually used the phrase yourself in your statement. I said, Black is a naturalist. You're a naturalist.
Yeah.
You respect and you want to care for and sustain the life around you, the environment around you. And I think that is something that you need, I would say you must keep on doing because it's a part of you also. And it's other than, as you were saying yourself, the pieces where you engage maybe with portraiture, or you want to say something even more about identity and culture.
It's,
Those
it's,
things in particular.
it's the love for nature itself, the love for
Right,
nature, like
right.
just being by the edge of the gully and everything.
Yes, yes,
The monkeys coming through. The art falls are there. It's just like a love for nature. That's what is. That will bring me to the level that I am at now.
yes. Yes.
Right. So
Absolutely
eventually,
wonderful.
I stopped actually doing that. Except for me or for close family, the carpentry stopped.
Okay,
I was
right.
just
Okay. Right.
because the challenge that I was looking for, I found it in the wood itself and just like carving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
from there, that's all till now for the last 35 years. It was just carving.
So in fact, you could even say that the carpentry now is also they're becoming collector's items because you only do carpentry for certain select people.
Well, you could say that. Yes, and I enjoy the little carvings and the other stuff and things too, but there's nothing like carving. Carving gives me the challenge. Every piece of wood is
Yes,
another challenge.
of
And
course, of course.
right, so
Yes. Um, yes. So these are the pieces that you keep on doing, and this is where we get the sense of identity and expression coming from you. And as you go on looking at your environment, looking at the society, we can see how your concerns are reflected in those pieces. Yes, in those
yeah,
pieces.
yeah.
Okay. Um, okay. I wonder if it may be time for us to look at the first piece. Which piece would you like us to have you lined up for us to see first?
Let's pop up.
Um, let's just see what comes up.
Okay. We know we're
Okay.
here.
Okay, the Nubian head.
Let's
Um,
say,
yeah. Would you like to say something? I think I'm very enthusiastic about it. So would you like to say?
yeah, this is a way of like encouraging Black women to um, keep their natural hairstyles, see that they can still be beautiful without straightening their hair. They still can be beautiful if they just stay natural and be Black.
Mhm.
So that's where these pieces come from. I usually carve women, beautiful women, from or women in general, because I see all women as beautiful anyway,
Mhm.
um, especially black women.
Mhm.
Uh,
So is this mahogany which you have sanded down? Because I know mahogany has different shades. Is it mahogany?
this is mahogany. This is Sutina mahogany. This is Belgium, like Belgium mahogany. Mahogany, because I find there's a difference in the two. The one that comes from like El Salvador, wherever else outside in Portland, that one that coming. It
Mhm.
it doesn't have the curves, the different, like it doesn't bend like as fast. Like the Sutina have like more knots, so the grain pattern it like tends to be a stronger
Uh-huh.
wood than the one that coming from outside, because it's like they grow. I don't know if it got to be the soil or something, because they grow a different type of tree, because they
Right.
got like longer, straighter, so they tend to trying to crack easier than the Sutina itself.
So look at that. So you find, not to get too technical, but so all the knots which will somehow subtly affect the movement, the breathing, the movement of the wood itself, so you can do more with it. Is that what you're saying? That's how it works.
It was stronger. Yeah, it won't crack as easy. It won't crack as easy as the other ones. And even if it does crack, and you put oil in it, it tend to like heal faster. You'll
Right.
find it coming back in, because by using, like I tell you, I use oils rather than stains and varnishes.
Like natural oils from.
Yeah, because as the wood is out there in the elements, it would like lose moisture.
That's right.
So my thing is to like add the moisture in,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
that it would stay together. It won't crack.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
that's
Yeah, because as we were saying, it's living and breathing, and so you have to keeps changing with the environment because of the porous nature that we
right.
may not think of, and so you need to control what is sucked in or what is kept out, and you keep it supple. You keep it supple. Can I
Yeah, and
ask?
the
Yeah,
thing is
go
about the
ahead.
mahogany. The thing is about the mahogany too. It stains itself. If you put a
Right.
piece of mahogany and see the clear as clear as this is,
Mm-hmm.
this have no oil on it yet.
Okay.
This
Uh-huh.
piece.
Yes.
If I put oil on it and put it in the sunlight, say for 4 or 5 hours,
Mm-hmm.
it will change completely.
As,
It
as
will
as
start
quick
to stain
quick
itself
as quickly as that.
as
four
quick
or
as
five
that.
hours.
Just in the sun, right? It would just like start to protect itself too, because that's what I find with mahogany. It's like a way of protecting itself. It's push moisture toward the surface. Like in
Yeah,
this piece, you see the difference in this.
of course.
This
Yeah.
other head here too. You see the dark. You see this is darker.
Mm-hmm.
This head here. This other head
So
that you have.
what did you do to treat this, or was this just left to dark naturally? Did you put
This is
some
just
oil?
this is just oil. This is just oil on this piece. Oil put on this piece, placed in the sun, and then with time, and you add more oil, it will just get darker and richer in color.
Right, right, right. Now, can I
And
ask a little simple question? Are they sort of near life size? I presume they are. They're like busts, which
yeah,
are almost life size. Yeah.
yeah, life size, yeah.
So these are the two that we have in the set here, which we have. I think we have
Well,
five to show. But what
this
I
piece
find, go ahead,
this piece is in the national
collection.
collection. Yeah,
Excellent,
this
wonderful.
the thing is
I can
about
see
this
why.
piece. Why did this piece here? I carve like the ears pierce with a hole in it.
Uh-huh.
Just
Uh-huh.
leaving the hole. Just leaving the hole that you could always change it. You could always change the earrings. You could put in a
Okay.
different earring. They're same
Okay.
earrings. You feel like just put the inner in the ears, and they just should be different.
Okay. So the national collection, people will change it every so often. I wonder if they will. This looks really beautiful.
I'm not too sure if they'll change it, but yeah, like I tell you, I love my work. So if I have it home at me, I
Yes,
sometimes
yes.
run these for a little while, then another time probably put an ounce or pair
Right,
ounce in the ears
right,
or
right,
something like that.
right,
Like,
right.
just shifting them around.
So did I notice that is that darker wood actually darker because it is a different type of wood, or is it
No,
also mahogany? Hmm?
like I tell you, it starts out
It's
lighter, just
mahogany.
like that.
Oh,
Yeah, it is mahogany,
okay,
but it's
great,
just
great.
like with time, putting the oil on it and the sunlight, and it would just stain itself. It just gets darker as it
So
age.
that's nice. And these were done, I can't remember, these were done fairly recently, last 5, 10 years. When were these done?
This piece was probably 204 or 202 or some 2004 maybe. this piece.
Right. I'm sure people are loving these images. I find they remind me they're so elegant, and the expression on the faces is of great sort of dignity and composure, and almost it's almost like they're very self-composed, in other words,
But
and
this is
very impressive.
I see this I see this every day. I see different pictures every day. I see it every day. So
Yeah,
it comes like
yeah.
easy now.
Very dignified and really beautiful pieces. And it does remind me, if I can go in two directions, of first of all, it reminds me a little of Carl Broodhagen, who was your great Barbadian, who did
Yeah,
beautiful
for sure.
paintings as well as sculptures, and
Um,
drawings, and who I was fortunate enough to meet a few years before he died. I think when I looked back the other day by chance, I saw it was 1998 when I came to Barbados for a meeting. And my colleague at the time, Stanley Grace, who was on our committee in Guyana of the National Gallery, said, "Oh, it was your last morning and you have some free time." And I wanted to take it easy. He said, "No, no, I think he's expecting you. You must come and meet him." And of course, I was very glad that I went because
yeah,
Carl was so wonderful and humble and
yeah.
very shy and
And
sweet. And
we were really close too. We were really close.
oh,
He used
I
to,
could imagine.
when I entered in the first two pieces, won the awards
Right,
from that time
right, right,
till his past. Then he would always
right,
come like to Hotown Festival. I usually like set up at
mm,
Hotown Festival in the
right,
festival
right.
on. I think he came over one day and told me, if there's one thing I can tell you for sure. And he even bought, I used to do some small boxes with lizards, like, and he bought a heart box for me, a heart shaped box with two lizards that's like facing one another in a heart.
Right,
He said, if there's one thing, you listen. You hardly
mhm.
talk, but you listen a lot because he was seeing it in my work.
Of
For comes
course.
anything, he was seeing it in the
That's
work.
wonderful.
For
Wonderful.
years,
Yes.
look, within the 35 years, I only fly a sign for about a year after that. 35 years. I had a sign up for about a year and a half. Otherwise, before that, it's just word to mouth. Somebody come and see you with it. People look for me for years. Come at the Barbados 3, 4 years. They're looking for me and come find me.
Can I ask you to repeat? You said for a year you did what?
Uh, uh, I said um, people sometimes looking for me like for years.
Oh, for years. Uh-huh.
Find me to find me. I said it's for a year. Out of the 35 years, I had a sign for maybe a year and a half.
Okay. Okay.
All
Okay.
the other things, it's just like word to mouth. Or you find my
Yes.
art, you see my art in a gallery or
Yes.
somewhere, and then you come. That's how people find me, like through my art. By
Yeah.
seeing the art, I want to see the man that
Right.
created the
Right.
piece.
Right. But wonderful. Two things. I'm sure he was very pleased that he was seeing somebody like you who was doing the kind of work I think we could recognize actually like his. He may not have put it that way. I think there's nothing better than for an artist like him who was getting on to say, this is somebody who's going to carry on this sort of thing. And secondly, when you look at all his work, it is so it is filled with the same kind of care and attention and love and respect that I think he saw in you, which is why he made that wonderful remark that not that you keep still, which is part of what you do, because you have to look and not disturb things around you, but that you listen, because it's a sense of describing the concentrated, your concentration, your mental concentration, your spiritual concentration, where you focus on doing something that you love and creating it, and you don't have too much time for other things.
No, you don't
Would you
even
agree? You agree with that?
when you start carving is like in order to you go up on this on 16 hours, even a little sleep.
Right,
Even a
right,
little sleep.
right,
You have to put in the hours if you want to be doing it to that level. Like working in your hands rather than just working with a chisel up there. You have to put in the hours, especially
of
the little
course.
small stuff. Sure.
Yes. So this is the thing because I was going to mention before when you talk about carpentry, because carpenters and people who use their hands, which sounds a little corny maybe, people like that make things work. I always say artists and sculptors and carpenters, you make things work. A good carpenter will do something, a beautiful work of art, and it's going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
last 100 years. You know how to put things together, things last. So it's not unusual for you to be a good carpenter and then go into sculpting. Um,
Right.
so it is about technical ability and doing things that last. And then, as I say, in terms of being an artist, like yourself or Carl or anybody else, you add that layer of your sensitivity, your self-expression, which enhances what you do and makes it appeal to other people as well.
Yeah,
So
I guess what was in the beginning too. I did like technical drawing at Course
ah,
Price, technical drawing, which is 3D. So I was
right.
into building drawing and that kind of stuff too.
So you did
I
that
thought,
sorry, did you
uh,
do that like at a technical college or school or
no,
something?
at Course Price Secondary School at Course
Right,
Price. Right. So I used to like I used to like metalwork. I used to work the lathe too when I was going to school.
Mhm.
The
So
metal,
you
the
had a little background because I remember, yeah, I
yeah,
remember
yeah,
asking you whether you did drawing, but as you said, but you have a sense of volume, right? You have a sense of volume
my
and form. So when you have
my
that piece
child,
of wood, and your
yeah,
chisel and your gouge, and you have your observation, your calculating
yeah.
observation, you can then cut into and start to shape. And at the end, we
We
get two
started,
beautiful pieces of work of
yeah,
those ladies, for example. And before we go on, I
right.
just want to say, I'm also reminded when I see those very noble busts of ancient portraits. We're talking about Greek and Roman, well, the Roman period in particular. You had a lot of noble
Yeah,
people, sometimes women, but plenty of the great men. You know,
yeah.
the Caesars and so on.
Yeah, you're talking about men, or even Bohegan said that there's beauty. You always find beauty in a woman and character in a man. That's another thing he said to me, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
that is
yes.
like, yeah,
But even that we can have a discussion about that another time, right? Because you could even say there's beauty in men and there's also character in women. This is my
yeah, I can agree with that too.
right.
But
We can do
yeah,
that.
proper,
We can
yeah.
do that. Okay, thanks. Maybe we can go to the next. There are about three left, and I think those are more the nature pieces. Can we have perhaps I don't know what's next, the monkey, or is
Monkeys,
it
lizards,
or
whatever.
the lizard, or maybe the mystic, the natural mystic piece, that beautiful. Okay, we can look at this
Okay,
this
the
this one.
monkey. You get the monkey. You get the monkey. Son, the monkeys pass through my yard every day because, like I tell you, I live by the garden side. The monkeys
Mhm.
pass through every day. So sometimes you get the monkeys. They pick they eat they bite the fleas out of one another. Or sometimes they just see them biting into the tail. They just like eating the fleas. They're
Right, right.
biting the fleas out of the tail. So that's where that piece came from.
Yes. Again, I see. So this would be what, about 12 inches, 14
Like,
inches. What would be?
probably 12. Yeah, 12. Yeah,
So
probably
because
12 or
this is
13.
not really a miniature. People might even say about your
Um,
doing.
I would say it could be about half size, a full half size monkey. Because you can get them like a
Right,
regular monkey coming in. The females
right.
are smaller, but I mean smaller than the male, but yeah, about 13, 12, 13 inches. This one probably about 13, 13 inches up.
Right. So, even this, I think we have either another view or is it another one? You can
Well,
see,
I think this is the only picture that came like
okay, okay. But, you can see expression in like some corner, expression. You see all the detail in the fingers, how they're hunched over, they're eating. It captures the movement and breath of life. And so those pieces, as you say, they're not really tiny. They are lovely little, you could almost say they're portraits. Look at this one. I mean, very, very charming. And just he's
This
about to jump off.
this one he has a fruit in his left hand and
Right,
he's still hanging like he's just all hanging on to the tail too. Another
right,
thing for the tail, it helps give strength to like for longevity with it, in case like it won't break that easy if the tail is up there by itself and somebody hit it, but sometimes if the hand up there holding out, it provides more strength for the smaller piece that's going up in the air versus the end of the tail.
right, right.
So I'm trying to create them that they will last as long as that. You know what I mean?
Yes. I mean, again, I just think it's a wonderful piece because it's so full of life and so full of detail and just beautifully made. If I can just pause here to remind our audience that they need to put questions if they like, questions and comments. And we will be starting that question and answer section in another 10 plus minutes or 15 minutes, I think, another 10 minutes or so. So we'd be happy to, Black would be happy to discuss any issues you want to bring up. Okay. Perhaps we can look at the next one, please. Is there one or two more? Or maybe the found piece, the piece that's called Mystic.
Okay.
Mystic
This,
series, yes.
this is a piece of frangipani wood. that I
Right.
found like there in St. Lucia on my birthday actually, a birthday back.
Okay. Okay.
I found this piece. I what brought me to the elements itself had it. You could actually like there wasn't much I had to do with this to like clean up the softer part. It showed me the resilience in the wood itself. The wood still command like making sure that it stay on top. In other words, it ain't rotten, It just like the hardness. It just keep like just letting go the soft and the hard part remain. Only the soft was going and the hardest part remain. So what you had to do is just like finish clean up the soft, which is
Right.
like the sap that in
Right.
the group,
Right.
and that was the final and cut the level and it has some like one to the shape. Like if it was like this, like a little too difficult for people to see. But if you look at it and see it from, I had it at different angles, so that you can actually see how many there's many different. Every time you turn it, you can see something different actually. Oh, and it has a hollow going on through the center too, so that it can be used like as a base. You could
Mhm.
probably use it, ginger lilies with the long stems where you cut off like
That's
and just
right. That's
like
right.
have a vase standing off the floor or whatever and decorate it to use it as a
Right. So
decoration.
this because this one look is very nicely set up. It's in like somebody's home. It looks very much like it's um, a piece that many people would like to just have decorating a particular corner. An extraordinary shape. It's pulsing with its own
Yeah,
light.
there's a piece that you will never see, you will never really see
Right.
again,
Right.
like that kind of level. Because nobody can come and carve it again like that. Just the
Mm.
element. So this is like a one-off, a completely one-off piece, and a piece like the
And,
character, like it's something else. I just
so
love it.
yeah. So you were saying again, you got this from your home environment, from the area around Durant's
No,
village.
this is the piece. This is down St. Lucie. I mean, this was I got this here on a pasta off of a pasta in
Okay.
Court Bay, St. Lucie. Yeah.
And so you're saying if the areas that were softer, maybe weathered by the elements plus the sap and so on, you would just
Elements,
gently get rid of those things, and then a lot of those nice markings, or you would add maybe do some gouging, depending on
yeah,
what the
yeah,
surface
yeah.
would look like.
I was just taking out the sap. I was taking out the softwood and just leaving the hardwood. So that's the finish there.
I mean, to me, that's a beautiful piece. I
If
can
you,
see it. Go ahead.
if you look at it right from different angles, you see like different the vibe. You see different faces and other like. I mean, it's like every time I look at it, I just see something else.
Right, right. I can see something like this. It's almost elemental how it's sort of it has like swirling patterns and
Right. Yeah.
almost like
Okay.
a little mini hurricane. Should I mention that?
Something like a tornado too, that kind of vibe, like you
Exactly,
spinning and you vibe going through it, right?
exactly,
But then
exactly.
in this shape, it creates different forms, which like you have you have faces
Right.
and and human forms and different human forms all depending on which angle you're looking at.
Mhm.
So that's the way I find it. I like that. I prefer to be dealing with this, not this
Yeah,
type,
and
these pieces.
yeah, I can see something like that making as people like to say, interior decorators making a statement, in a corner of a nice
Yeah,
sophisticated bit of somebody's drawing room or whatever, where it's a contrast to the furniture, the angles of the walls and the doors and the furniture, and you have this swirling piece somewhere there making a statement. So I think it's another beautiful piece. I think we have one. Do we have one more image to share, or
the lizards.
the lizard? There's a lizard.
What's in the lizard pieces? Oh, if you got another piece in there, you got another piece. That is another piece that's percentage picture up. Let me see. There's you got the lizards. That's the natural vibe. You actually see the here too. This is like I used to create the lizards on boxes, like small
Mm-hmm.
jewelry boxes. And
Mm-hmm.
it came into my head one day, is it just the subject matter, which is the frogs and the lizards, or is it the box that's selling the item? And
Mm-hmm.
I decided to like try the lizards, which was it was faster to produce a leaf than to produce the box with the same lizard on it. So I started producing the leaves and it worked. The leaves just started selling. So to me, it was like the subject matter, the lizards. Now here you won't, well, they sell here too, but I'll be you in a pigeon house, he will usually find a lizard pass through or will see
Right.
a visiting frog. But many
Right.
people, the tourists come down, they don't really see the visiting frog down here. They might probably hear it or they might see it in the bathroom. So, and
That's right.
they're, right, that's what connect.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
then the last 20 probably years or so, it was just producing the leaves.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, you see, if they're beautifully made, I was trying to make the point earlier that it doesn't matter how what even the subject matter is, how small it is, how medium sized, but if it is beautifully conceived and created, tourists or visitors, we call them what we will, are
Mhm.
happy to purchase and take away things that they can see are of quality. You know, I don't
Right.
think anybody wants to take a gift from a lovely place or to show, and if they can get something like that, it's a lovely piece of art, but it's also something that's portable, it's not too large, but very beautiful.
Yeah.
I can see why you would decide to keep on doing those things as perhaps
Bread
a
and,
way to
bread,
say
and, bread, and, bread, and, butter- bread and butter, bread and butter pieces.
yeah, bread
Pieces
and
that
butter. Thank you.
I made sure that I eat in like many days. Like,
Thank
you know
you.
what I mean? The bigger
Yes.
pieces we just could sit down so
Mm, yes.
the real owner come for it, right?
Right. That's true. That's true. So it's now nearly time for questions, but before we go to that, could we bring up could we have the two pieces, the two portrait busts of the two ladies, the Nubian lady and there's two of them, I think. Could we just have those? I wanted to make a mention of what Kenneth had said in his statement, and I know people would have most people might have seen it, maybe not everybody did. Um, but he was talking about the reality of Black beauty and wanting to celebrate Black beauty. But what I also found was very resonant was when he asked the question. He said, "How do we view ourselves? Or how we view ourselves is important." And simple as it sounds, beauty is an intrinsic part of identity and culture. One of the leading commentaries is that of our identity. Who are we really? If we can truly, and this is, I think, a critical paragraph, a critical few lines. Who are we really? If we can truly answer this question, it will help us make those hard decisions that will create the space for equality for the present and for future generations, which I think is just very profound. It's simple but very profound. And in fact, and then you say we exist later on, we exist within a facade, made normal uh, by over 400 years of enslavement because we live in that post-emancipation period where elements from what people went through, many of us in the Caribbean went through, still shape our culture or lives, even whether we realize it or not. And the thing about discovering and celebrating your own culture, your own physicality, all of those things, it brings you confidence and dignity, and it also makes you share that, exude that, and there is a sense of appreciation for those with whom you share your space. Which is how I see it. So I think that's quite remarkable. And then you made the point about COVID. Now, briefly, I just want to say, could you mention Black Lives Matter? And thinking about the sculptures that you did, I was saying before about sculpture particularly being very much of value because it's in a context. We see it in the context. We see it in a physical space because sculpture is physical. Um, and when I think of the sculptures that have been vandalized, some of them have been toppled abroad, but they have a different kind of significance from how we see sculpture or the remnants of colonialism or of empire that are still in the Caribbean. I do think people who are in the UK and even those people who are in the US have a more direct and often tragic, intense relationship with what we could call the remnants of empire, all the elements and the tools and symbols of empire, because they are living at the source. They're living at the source. Many of us who are now called the diaspora. When you think about it, we all came from different large areas of the world, were brought to the Caribbean, and then we moved back out to some of those places, whether it's the UK or the US. And the status quo that always applied is basically still there. And this is what we've painfully seen in terms of how we've seen people suffer and be brutalized, and I mean all the many things that we know have happened for quite a while. And the irony of COVID is that, as you're saying, it's forced people to have time inside. It's also allowed this very creative salon, which has been put together by all these wonderful people, because there's been that downturn in a lot of activity and exchange of ideas and even money and so on support. We have an event like this which reaches out to people, and as I think I said to you before, to give a sense of support, community, intellectual and other support to the artist community, and people who have joined in the protests over the last several months in particularly the northern countries, but not only in the northern countries, but other places in the world. It's partly ironically because they have the time now. They're not at work. They're not at work, many of them. It doesn't mean that they might not have wanted to do these things before to support and protest, but they have to go to work. Now that they don't have, now that they don't have so much work, they have the time to think about and express their support, their anger for what has been going on. And this is why you see these, ironically, these floods of people to protest against another kind of, dare I say, pandemic or disease, which is this terrible denial of rights, and human rights, civil rights, and the denial of a whole area of history, which is still very much alive for many people, but not so much for others. Huh? So I think it's very ironic that because of COVID and the slowdown of the big, wide, powerful world, you have many of us who have more time to think, more time to appreciate, more
And
time to value.
more time to look inside, and more time to remember that I have a soul.
Exactly. Oh, very well put. Exactly that, you know. I wanted to mention too in passing, the sculpture that Carl Broodhagen did, which you all have in Bridgetown, is it? Is it
Yeah.
pronounced Buster, as in bus, the
Massa,
chain?
massa,
Buster
massa,
chains. Right,
massa.
Buster. I mean, you know, which is again very sort of expressive, and the figures there, you know, straining and the chains are breaking. That is one figure that you can compare with another one that was more recent, that was done in Jamaica, you may remember, um, which I think was an emancipation monument too by Laura Facey. I think it was by Laura Facey. And it may have been done to mark the would it be the bicentenary of the abolition of slavery? I'm not sure. I think it was around 27, 28, 2010. I can't remember the date. I didn't remember to check the date. But that was beautifully done, which is a very sort of gifted sculptor and artist. But I do remember that there was a certain furore for many reasons, you know, because the figures were beautifully done, but they were both, I think, naked. It was a mark of African Caribbean people, but it represent the emancipation and their newness. I'm not sure, but beautifully done. But I know there was some furore. By contrast, now we have in Guyana, we have a different emancipation monument, but that was done for our 10th anniversary of independence by our great sculptor Philip Moore, who was such a institution all of his own. Philip is a wonderful painter and sculptor. And that sculpture also had a negative reaction because it was not anything noble and interesting that you might do, or even Carl, or even Laura Casey, but it was more a symbolic, almost on the rampage figure, ready to fight. And his mouth, as you said, was pouting because he's angry. It had lots of symbols and
Yeah,
carvings all over the body, national heroes, or the symbols of what a countryman was like, because it nominally was celebrating Coffee, who had led the rebellion in 1763. It's called the 1763 Monument. And what Philip said at one point, that Coffee was a man of the people. He was a man who farmed, so his feet have clumps of clay on it, and he has a belt around his waist with a dagger. But in his two hands, he also squeezes. You see two figures. One is a dog, and one is a fish. One is a pig with a fish's tail. And he said, you know, no matter how people oppress us, that's what Philip said as his message. No matter how people oppress us, we will not be able to overcome, so to speak, or be ourselves and guide ourselves unless we cast off greed, because he said the dog was a symbol of greed. The pig was also a symbol of greed. And the fish tail was meant to symbolize the big fish we have in our societies. And of course, the dog and the pig were references to the biblical quote about cast not your pearls before swine. your sacred things to dogs because they will trample on them and not battle you and still attack you. So that was Philip. So our emancipation monument, such as it was of a slave, is something quite different. And I think what has been done before is very much of its time, even recently. But it's now time to do people like you. Perhaps I'm challenging you to do other things. If you're thinking of going on a different scale, it may be other people. But I'm sure there are artists who are thinking, how do we deal with what is happening to take up your challenge? How do we come to terms with ourselves, you know? And as opposed to what is being knocked down in the UK or the US, because when you look at those, they're all very elegant and powerful men, you know?
Men.
Elegant, powerful men who have the trappings of superiority and excellent education. But you don't see any European men or women unclothed. Why would you? The only time you see Europeans looking unclothed is in the great temples of art, where you see, again, beautiful Greek sculpture. You know what I'm saying? Which is from what is called the classical period. So those of us who consider ourselves the black and brown people, um, it's difficult to see all these great people with authority and so on when we know that the reality of much of what has gone on so long ago is a more complex and, as we say now, there's a nuanced story. So it's quite understandable in some ways to think that people have objected in such a way to sculptures which are celebrating people who actually made their money from not just being slave owners, but being part of the slave trade. So, so it's very interesting that enlightened people, particularly in the so-called advanced countries in particular, support the ideas that I'm just mentioning to you, or that you also expose. And even institutionally, there is meant to be a lot of support for changes. In fact, I'm not sure if we have any comments. Are there some questions? I had maybe could we have some questions for yes for Kenneth? Or in the should I read it out? Art and Soul Gallery books. In the decades you have been working, Black, have you had an increased appreciation for your work from Barbadians themselves?
Yeah, I can see that. They got a lot of people up here that support me. Some good people who kept me taking over through the years. There are a good few of them down there. A good few of them too that support me like from time to time. They're too numerous to mention. Though there are a good few of them that can and still support me all right now. So.
Well, I'm sure they do. I think we mentioned before, but there's too much to say really, that you also had, not only did you have work in the National Collection, excuse me, you also had a work in the Parliament building. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a piece there in Parliament
Parliament
building.
Honoring a politician.
That's the East Wing. Yeah, there's the East Wing of the West Wing.
Which is a very large piece, a 9-foot piece.
Yeah, before next to the Parliament building. I think it's the East Wing or the West Wing of the Parliament, right upstairs there. That's a Duncan O'Neill piece.
Right, Duncan O'Neill. So yes, and you said it had flames around it.
They wanted to they was commissioned by the government at the time, the INGA at the time, to produce this piece.
And then you also got a special award.
In the National Heroes Gallery.
Okay, right. Oh yes. I remember having an early.
It was created like a whole, like just like flames. They wanted him like just not the features, but just like what he stand for.
Okay.
As in Barbados, the thing, and he agitated and thing like for the rights of women and them kind of things. And so, in reading a few articles about him, I found that he was not only referred to by, I think, the vice chancellor or something at the university as not only by me, but as a man of flames too. And I only realized that after like checking, because when they came and asked me to do the work, and they asked me like, "Why we do?" I said, "Probably flames," and just like it just so happened that I wasn't the only one that referred to him as like flames.
Right. So again, that's your sort of intuition and your was it your sixth sense, just working over time. You have a sense of communion with the subject that you're working, that you're creating in
Yeah,
sculpture.
I know about a feeling. I know so though, because it's happened every now and then.
Okay, wonderful. I think I saw another comment, another question. Okay, great. Author girl 44. Your proficiency in different areas like technical drawing or metal is really interesting. Do you ever use mixed media in the same piece, or do you prefer to work with different materials separately?
I can, and I did, yeah, I do it already, and I do it more than once. But I, I like wood and I like stone, but I love, like I tell you, I just love to work with wood more than anything else. I get satisfaction in working in the wood, especially the Sutina mahogany itself. The grain patterns are like second to none, and it's something. And the challenge is there, and then to execute it is like to find myself like working and finishing with what I start up with in my mind. To bring it to that to the level that is bringing that is bring satisfaction to my soul. So
Sure, I'm sure. I'm sure. I think I see another question. Annalie. Black, this is from Annalie. Black has the recent Black Lives Matter movement and local discussions about that moment and the Nelson statue being of interest to you. It's
well,
taking
for well, I know Nelson himself or Hardwell Nelson. I figured the establishment could like this. I had to find another place for it, or there's no need for it at all. Not at this time. Not after like this 1966 independence, right? It was 66,
right.
1966.
Yes, yes, yes.
I don't think there's no need really for that. For we got enough. We got if we need we got to have enough people that contribute enough to this society that we can
Indeed,
the use these people for
indeed.
Scotland, yeah, rather than Nelson. So
Yes. It's
I'm at a
it's
star.
funny, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm
It
at
is. What has
I'm at
happened now is just.
I'm at a
Sorry. Go
star.
ahead.
I'm at a star of slaves.
Yes,
I,
yes.
I don't think there's no need really. There's no need for Nelson and Margaret at this time. That's
It's
my
it's
opinion.
it's really amazing how the awareness of people and what we now call backstory, people's backstories are for a lot of us now coming out. A lot of academics have done this sort of thing before. I remember somebody talking about a man whose paintings founded the National Gallery in London and how he made some of his money, John Augustine. But we have often just accepted these things and walking up and down doing our business. Why is he still? And I'm sure heard. I remember seeing a bit of coverage in one of the American newspapers where after your inestimable prime minister said we're now going to we're no longer having the Queen as our head of state. Um, and then I saw in the American paper, I wasn't keeping up with Barbados papers online, where there was this a photo of Nelson, who in those even in that sculpture we noticed that he was like a young Nelson. He's sort of like almost like a very handsome, like a dandy.
Yeah,
He's posing off,
yeah.
slim. I don't think he did. I think he still had both
Just
arms.
the
Quite the
arm.
same as.
Okay, just one arm.
Oh, he had the one arm.
Only,
Okay,
yeah, he's
but
only one arm. One arm.
okay, but that shows you how much I used to look when I used to, the few times I was in Barbados. He didn't have his admiral's hat. He didn't have his admiral's coat. He used to say a young man, very well dressed. And then I saw them put that little bit of graffiti below, which had me so amused. Take me down, which was
Oh,
written
the Christine, right? Yeah.
the day after the announcement. And I made a joke and I said, the Barbadians are so polite. They didn't say, we got to take this man and we're having Mr. Nelson, Lord Nelson, ask you politely, take me down.
Yeah,
So to me,
yeah.
that sums up Barbadian wit. Any other questions? Oh, Denise Robinson, which is more satisfying for you? The pieces where you emphasize your skill in transforming the wood into what you want, like the lizards and portraits, or uh, the working with the is it the abstract piece.
But like this movement with the abstract piece here, this year this like hit me after probably my age. The beauty in this in the older wood, I'm more attracted to the older pieces like walking through the gullies now. than to take to take a fresh piece and to carve it. You get where I'm coming from?
Yes, yes,
Well,
yes.
I would think that I like I just love these older pieces.
Mhm. You're right. I see what you mean. It's more reflective and you're thinking of the passage of time, eh?
Yeah, I just
Passage
love
of
these older
time.
pieces now.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Any other questions quickly? We have a few minutes left, and I did want to actually share a quote, even though it's not from the Caribbean or anybody here. Any other questions? Ah, sorry. Oh, the girl. The need to be fulfilled and have purpose in your life's work really resonates. How has the public response been to your work and the message about African and Black empowerment in a Caribbean space?
Yeah,
Have you
I
had a
get
response?
yeah a lot. I get a lot of respect. I get a lot of respect from the people up there. From the kids up. I get a lot of respect in my neighborhood and wherever I go in Barbados and far beyond, all over the world. People just respect me for who I am and for the amount of time that I put in to sitting down and creating this work. You know?
Excellent, excellent. I think that that will have to be our last question. If I could just wrap up, I want to quickly say if I can find it, or if I don't have the time, I'll just say it. You may have noticed, some of you, that there was an announcement, I think last week, late last week, from the Mellon Foundation, the Andrew Mellon Foundation, which is a multi-billionaires fund for art and culture. And they announced that they're starting a $250 million grant to reimagine US monuments in a monuments project, which will seek to bring more context to the pre-existing monuments that still remain in the US. They will relocate others and to fund the creation of new monuments which will depict people from diverse. And then there's another comment: monuments, memorials, and other common spaces convey both individual narratives and national values. They shape the histories of who we are and influence a discussion about which people in our society are considered worth celebrating and remembering. And I thought to myself, they must have been reading your statement, because they're saying basically what you were challenging when you started: who are we? And we need to do these things for ourselves. So that is actually quite an exciting fund, which who knows how it will spread out, if it's American or elsewhere. But at least it shows that people understand now that there has to be a reinterpretation and
Yeah,
a different right. Yes, a
you as the
different
artist,
writing history.
you as the artist have to appreciate it in order for somebody else to appreciate it too. You
Yes,
first have to appreciate what you're doing.
yes,
You
indeed,
understand? Right.
indeed, indeed. Now, Kenneth, I think we need to wrap up now, but I want to say a great big thank you for sharing all your wonderful ideas and your work. I know you've inspired me a lot, and I think you've inspired people listening to you, as well as all those people who have known your work before. And I can only wish you ever more success, and I know that your work is going to have even more resonance as you continue working at your own pace and at your own instincts and leisure in Barbados. So before we wrap up, I would just like to say, first of all, I think I must apologize to the American Friends of Jamaica, who I may have left out in my initial introduction. So in saying thank you again to the Catapult team, let me acknowledge the American Friends of Jamaica, the Kingston Creative, and the Professional platform for their support in making these um, lockdown, the virtual salons, very much a reality, which I'm sure are going to be very, very fruitful as we continue on. So thank you very much again. Please don't forget to join us again at 4 p.m. this afternoon for the second of my two conversations. The second one will be with a multidisciplinary artist, uh, Vivian Elizabeth Armour from Trinidad. So we do hope to see you then. Join us later, please. Thank you
Yeah,
very much,
okay, thanks.
everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you again,
thanks.
Kenneth,
Yeah,
and
thanks
the
for having me.
Catapult team. Most welcome. It's been a great pleasure.
Okay.